Emily, and this is my music studies capstone presentation, an analysis of the music of Taylor Swift. This presentation uses swear words and may not be appropriate for children under the age of 18. Taylor Swift is a record-breaking pop star. Swift enjoyed singing and writing songs as a child, and when she was 14, her family moved from Pennsylvania to Nashville so she could pursue a career in music. Swift entered the music industry in 2006 at age 16 with her self-titled debut country album. Since then, she has put out 10 studio albums, won 11 Grammys, and completed 5 international tours. Despite all this success, young women are often not taken seriously, and Swift has been disparaged throughout her career. Swift has been frequently criticized by the general public for her image and persona. For example, Marie Reese Lynn Bernard, blogger, writer, and CEO of Autostraddle.com, called Swift one of many, quote, conservative role models who compose girl-bashing, boy-crazy, rain-soaked anthems, end quote, and, quote, eternally childlike, obedient, and one-dimensional, end quote. Travis Steinling, musicology professor at the West Virginia University, called Swift, quote, an ignorant Southern girl who falls in love with an equally retarded guy, end quote. As an aside, I don't condone his offensive language, but his statement supports my point. Swift's success has also been attributed to an uncritical audience willing to consume any easily digestible music. Her fan base has been criticized for being young and ignorant. According to Dr. Holly Cruz, communications professor at Rutgers State University, female fans are often dismissed as, quote, deranged, fickle, and lacking a strong sense of self, end quote, due to teenage girls having a reputation for being silly and over-emotional. This makes Swift's music itself, as music produced by a young woman, quote, highly suspect in the eyes of many, predominantly male rockist critics and fans, end quote, according to Steinling. Another way in which Swift has been criticized is about her personal life. This is due to her history of dating a series of high-profile men and writing about them in her songs. For example, in the New York Post, critic Reed Tucker suggested that Swift dated for publicity and accused her of morphing from, quote, virginal to man-eater, end quote. Tabloids and fans alike combed through lyrics searching for clues as to who was the subject of each song. Swift never confirmed who the song was about, yet slyly encouraged the search for clues by dropping hints such as, quote, 2 paper airplanes flying, end quote, in Out of the Woods, which led sleuths to believe that she was referencing the matching paper airplane necklaces worn by Swift and Styles during their time as a couple. She also, until the album Reputation in 2017, put a secret message for each song in the album booklets, which sometimes gave a clue as to who the song was about. For example, the secret message to the song All Too Well was simply Maple Lattes, which pointed to Swift's romance with Jake Gyllenhaal and the time they were cited getting Thanksgiving maple lattes with Gyllenhaal's family. Mark Savage of BBC said of Swift, quote, if you believe the tabloids, she spends most of her time warbling about famous ex-boyfriends and feuds with fellow pop stars. But if you pay attention, Swift's catalog is full of deft lyrical minutia, unquote. Swift, for her part, has commented that this obsessive focus on her personal life is part of a double standard for women and men in the music industry. Swift said in an interview that, quote, a man writing about his feelings from a vulnerable place is brave. A woman writing about her feelings is oversharing or whining, end quote. I'll let her speak for herself in this interview from 2014.
You're going to have people who are going to see the depth from which you approached a song, the fact that you put, your real emotions into it, and that's valuable and that's good and that's real. Yeah. And then you're going to have people who are going to say, oh, she just writes songs about her ex-boyfriends. And I think, frankly, that's a very sexist angle to take. No one says that about Ed Sheeran. No one says it about Bruno Mars. They're all writing songs about their exes, their current girlfriends, their love life, and no one raises a red flag there.
Swift's music has also been criticized for being musically simple. When Swift was 20, critics complained that her songwriting was immature and repetitive. For example, Steinling critically noted that the majority of the songs on Swift's 4 albums don't span a vocal range of more than a perfect fifth, a relatively narrow span, and use repeated short melodic motifs. A second example of this is that Swift's static or one-note melodies have been called boring. In a conversation between fans Jane Hugh and Jen Baffitis, published on The Hairpin, a general interest site aimed at women, fans said of the song Welcome to New York from Swift's fifth studio album, 1989, that these melodies are, quote, kind of terrible, unquote, and, quote, it's so repetitive, and it's bland, which is something I haven't thought about a Taylor Swift single before, I think, unquote. Alyssa Barna, assistant professor of music theory at the University of Minnesota, wrote in the Washington Post of the album Evermore that the vocals were fairly static throughout, and that the album as a whole was, quote, dull, even boring, end quote. She said that the album's Folklore and Evermore, quote, noticeably avoid the types of musical contrasts songwriters usually employ to hold listeners' interests and introduce new musical ideas, end quote. Barna also argued that, quote, consistent, soft dynamics certainly convey the image of a cerebral flannel-clad musician composing in a forest cabin, but some listeners could find that this doesn't hold their interest after a few tracks. In this presentation, I argue that Taylor Swift is not to be dismissed as untalented. First, I will present a brief biography of Taylor Swift. Then I will argue that Taylor Swift writes original lyrics with complicated text painting that is used to set the moods and reinforce the meaning of the lyrics. I use the song Betty to demonstrate this. Second, I argue that passages with static melodies can be analyzed as a method to increase tension in the song or to draw attention to other aspects of the song. Before I present my analytical arguments about Taylor Swift's lyrics and one-note melodies, I will discuss some pertinent information about her biography and discography. I will speak briefly on each album and play snippets of songs that show Swift's musical style at that time. Taylor Swift was born on December 13, 1989 in Reading, Pennsylvania. Her parents are Andrea and Scott Swift, who later divorced in 2014, and she has a younger brother, Austin. Swift was a singer as a child and started writing songs early in her teenage years. When she was 14, her family moved to Nashville, and she was signed to a record deal with Big Machine Records by age 15. Her first single, Tim McGraw, was released in 2006, and her self-titled debut album followed. Taylor Swift, The Debut, is a country album with lyrics that project youthful innocence and small-town charm. Here's the chorus off another single off the debut, Our Song.
And he says, our song is a slim street boy, sneaking out late, tapping on your window. When we're on the phone and you talk real slow, 'cause it's late and your mama don't know. Our song is a real love. The first date, man, I didn't kiss her and I should have. And when I got home for our sad amen, asking God if he could play it again.
This video won Video of the Year and Female Video of the Year at the Country Music Awards. That year in country music, Carrie Underwood's album Some Hearts from the year before spent 14 weeks at the top of the charts, and Rascal Flatts 10 weeks with Me and My Gang. Taylor Swift's debut spent 8 weeks at the top of the charts the following year. Swift the following year also won New Female Vocalist of the Year at the Academy of the Country Music Awards and the Horizon Award, awarded to an upcoming artist who shows promise and beginning success in country music at the Country Music Awards. Here's her acceptance speech for the Horizon Award.
I can't even believe that this is real. And I want to thank God and my family for moving to Nashville so that I could do this. And I want to thank Country Radio. I will never forget the chance that you took on me. Brad Paisley, thank you for letting me tour with you. Scott Borchetta, Rick Barker, everybody at Big Machine Records, and the fans, you have changed my life. I can't even believe this, and this is definitely the highlight of my senior year.
The only other artist nominated for both awards was Kelly Pickler, an American Idol contestant who has released 4 albums since her 2006 debut, most recently in 2013, and since then has been on Dancing with the Stars and in multiple Hallmark Christmas movies. Swift's next album, Fearless, came out in 2008 and won Album of the Year and Best Country Album at the 2009 Grammy Awards. In 2009, at the MTV Music Video Awards, Swift also won Video of the Year over more established female artists Kelly Clarkson, Beyonce, and Lady Gaga. Speak Now, released in 2010, maintained a similar country feel, though it incorporated more elements of mainstream pop. Red, released in 2012, was a country pop album on which Swift started to branch out in terms of style, with pop tracks such as I Knew You Were Trouble and We Are Never Ever Getting Back Together, alongside mournful, heart-wrenching ballads such as Sad, Beautiful, Tragic, and The Last Time. Red spans multiple musical styles, so here's the chorus of the title track, Red. You might have also noticed that she changed her hair, making it less curly and a little more put together, and changed the font on the album cover. She was beginning to separate herself from her country image. Up until this point, 2012, Swift maintained the image of, quote, a virginal, delicate girl, unquote. According to Valerie Pollock in Forever Adolescence, Taylor Swift eroticized innocence and performing normativity. Swift was relatable to the average teenage girl, her image being that she was always the victim, getting her heart broken by cruel men. With 1989, released in 2014, Taylor Swift continued with the image of relatability while embracing the popular music genre, with electronic instrumentation and a more retro aesthetic. This album sold 1.287 million copies in its debut week. The lead single, Shake It Off, was a catchy song about not listening to the haters and the fakers. Blank Space, the second single off 1989, topped Shake It Off on the charts and made Swift the first woman to succeed herself in the top spot on the Billboard Top 100. 1989 won Album of the Year and Best Pop Vocal Album at the 2016 Grammys. Here's the chorus of Style, the third single off the album. That year in pop music, Happy by Pharrell Williams was the #1 song on the Billboard Hot 100. Shake It Off was number 13. After the release of 1989, Taylor Swift took a 3-year hiatus from releasing albums as she had released in 4 in 8 years. When Swift returned, it was with the single, Look What You Made Me Do from the album Reputation. A frightening song about outsmarting and getting revenge on someone who had wronged her that utilized Swift's lower range. Here's the chorus. Beyond this song, Reputation was a love letter to Swift's boyfriend of a year by that point, Joe Alwyn. Lover, released in 2019, was an upbeat album also filled with love songs. The theme of love was similar to Reputation, but the aesthetic was gentler. Lover also brought Swift's first song about politics, You Need to Calm Down, a song speaking out against those criticizing the LGBTQ+ community. Here's Cruel Summer, which though not a single, is a fan favorite and gives a good idea of the overall sound of the album.
Angels roll their eyes, doesn't kill me, makes me want you more. And it's blue, shape of your body is blue. The feeling I got it is blue. It's cool summer, it's cool. That's what I tell them. We go heaven, but it's cool summer with you.
are indie folk albums that Swift called, quote, sister albums, unquote, which contained a majority of fiction stories made up in quarantine. Folklore won the Album of the Year Grammy in 2021. This is Cardigan from Folklore.
When you are young, they assume you know nothing. But I knew you linger like a tattoo kiss. I knew you'd haunt all over my worries. The smell of smoke would hang around this long. 'Cause I knew everything when I was young.
Midnights, released in 2022, is Taylor Swift's latest album released a month ago tomorrow. Swift called this album, quote, the stories of 13 sleepless nights scattered throughout my life, unquote. Most of the songs were co-written with Jack Antonoff of the band Bleachers. This album was the most streamed album in a single day on Spotify and made Taylor Swift the first artist in history to claim all top 10 spots on the Billboard Hot 100, with the top 10 songs shown here. Taylor Swift will be going on tour next summer. This clip from The Daily Show with Trevor Noah will show you how big a deal the tour is.
Starting with Taylor Swift. This morning, tickets went on sale for the singer's first tour in 4 years, and so many fans rushed onto the Ticketmaster site that it immediately crashed. And no one could get tickets. And yeah, Ticketmaster did Taylor Swift so wrong, she's already put out 3 albums about them. They don't learn their lesson. I know everyone thinks that getting these tickets is the most important thing in the world, but it's really not, all right? If you don't get them, just relax, log off, just give the site like a chance to cool down and repair itself. And then, don't bother. You just chill. All right, I got mine. You can go back on. You do whatever you want.
Here's the chorus off the lead single off Midnight's, Antihero.
It's me, high on the problem, it's me, at tea time, everybody agrees. I stare directly at the sun, but never in the mirror. It must be exhausting, always rooting for the anti-hero.
In 2021, Swift released Fearless Taylor's version and Red Taylor's version, re-recordings of the previous albums. This was due to Swift's original deal with Big Machine Records in 2005, because of which she does not own the original masters of her early songs, though she does own the compositions. Without owning her masters, her record label could prevent her from utilizing her music in a way she might want. For example, performing a medley of her songs or using her music in a documentary. In 2018, Swift signed a deal with Republic Records that would allow her to own her own masters going forward. Scooter Braun bought Big Machine Records in 2019 and sold Swift's masters for Taylor Swift through Reputation to private equity firm Shamrock Holdings in 2020. Swift has advocated for artists owning and profiting off their own music. Now I will talk about one of Taylor Swift's biggest strengths, her original lyrics. Swift writes her lyrics herself, often drawing from personal experience, and has told Billboard that, quote, I wouldn't be a singer if I wasn't a songwriter, end quote. She was called, quote, one of the outstanding American pop lyricists in the 21st century, end quote, by Wickham Sir Von Crystal, in A Study of Figurative Language that Conveys Connotation Related to American Cultural Values in Pop Songs, the case of Taylor Swift. Swift's country background may play a role in the importance of storytelling in her music. Haley Miller wrote on Medium.com that, quote, the thing about country music is that it does short-form storytelling better than any other genre. These songs tell beautiful stories about love, romance, heartbreak, etc., all in less than 4 minutes. No other musical genre does it that well. It shows that crazy depths of emotion can be portrayed with just a few impactful words, end quote. Kathleen McLaughlin wrote on StudyBreaks.com that, quote, lyrics that come out of Nashville have always fascinated me. They're often full of wordplay and clever wit that particularly appeals to me as a writer. Here's what Taylor Swift has to say about the lyrics and feelings that she puts into songs at the Reputation Stadium Tour in 2018.
I know from our conversations that you guys are so all about whatever it is that the person that you listen to is singing about, what you happen to be going through, or did go through at one point in time. I think that's kind of all you care about when it comes to a song. So I've always written songs with the lyrics, the feeling, and the melody in mind.
As Taylor Swift has experimented with different genres and styles, she has maintained and built on the storytelling skill that contributes to making her songs so good. In his study, Surya Van Paisel noticed that in the song The Story of Us from the album Speak Now, the derisive simile is employed in the lyric, and the story of us looks a lot like a tragedy now. This figurative language device compares the heartbreak to a tragedy. Similarly, in the line, leaving like a father from the single Cardigan, Swift likens the loss of a boyfriend to the loss of a father, making the breakup seem more life-changing and devastating, and making the boyfriend seem irreplaceable. In the song All Too Well, the line, I'm a crumpled up piece of paper lying here, 'cause I remember it all too well, is a metaphor that gives the image of the speaker lying on the floor, discarded and feeling small. Swift's song lyrics are full of similar examples of feelings being expressed so strongly and vulnerably. While these clever uses of figurative language give the song more feeling, which is part of the appeal of a love song, they are unfortunately often written off as the over-dramatization of a whining teenage girl. This is where the storytelling comes into play. Taylor Swift is a skilled songwriter and talented singer who has matured greatly since her debut. Several of the songs on Evermore tell gripping fictional stories composed by Swift, such as Champagne Problems, a story about a woman who turned down a proposal where the reasons behind her rejection are revealed in the bridge. In No Body, No Crime, a song reminiscent of Carrie Underwood or Miranda Lambert, about the mysterious disappearance of Swift's friend's cheating husband that they just can't prove. In Right Where You Left Me, Swift uses vivid imagery to paint the picture of a woman who was broken up with at a restaurant and stayed at that table in the restaurant forever. Here's a clip from Right Where You Left Me.
Did you ever hear about the girl who got frozen? Time went on for everybody else, she won't know it. She's still 23, inside her fantasy, how it was supposed to be. Did you hear about the girl who lives in delusion? Breakups happen every day, don't ever lose it. She's still 23, inside her fantasy, and you're sitting in front of me.
My first case study, which shows text painting, is Betty, a song from the album Folklore, part of a, quote, trilogy of three, the trinity of Betty, August, and Cardigan, unquote, according to Taylor Swift in the documentary Folklore, The Long Con Studio Sessions. The lyrics to Betty are in your handout and on the screen. The song is told from the point of view of the character James, which is revealed in the bridge by the line, she said, James, get in, let's drive, who cheated on his girlfriend Betty, for whom the song is named, over the summer. Up until the bridge, James is telling Betty how much he misses her. I will now play you the entire song.
Betty, I won't make assumptions about why you switched your homeroom, but I think it's 'cause of me. Betty, one time I was riding on my skateboard when I passed your house. It's like I couldn't breathe. You heard the rumors from Inez. You can't believe a word she says most times, but this time it was true. The worst thing that I ever did was what I did to you. But if I just showed up at your party, would you have me? Would you want me? Would you tell me to fuck myself or lead me to the garden? In the garden, would you trust me if I told you it was just a summer thing?
bridge of this song and a text painting that is used to set the moods and reinforce the meaning of the lyrics. In this analysis, I will go through the bridge line by line and play each line before I speak about it. Before I do that, let's hear the bridge one more time. You can follow along with the chord changes, melody, and lyrics of the bridge on the slide.
I was walking home on broken cobblestones, just thinking of you when she pulled up like a figment of my worst intentions. She said, "James, get in, let's drive." 'Cause days turned into nights. Slept next to her, but I dreamt of you all summer long.
While the rest of the song is hypothetical and looks toward the future, the bridge tells the reality of how James ended up with the other girl, who, though never mentioned by name in the album, was said in Swift by Swift in Folklore, the Long Pond studio sessions, to have the name either Augusta or Augustine. The bridge begins with the line, "I was walking home on broken cobblestones," which, as you can see, uses the same notes, E, D, G, and A, and a similar melodic profile, but a different rhythm than is used in the chorus for the lines, "Betty, I won't make assumptions," shown in example 3. Other lines in the verses that share the same rhythm and melody are, "Betty, one time I was riding on my skateboard," "Betty, I know where it all went wrong," and "I was nowhere to be found." This slightly different melody and rhythm, along with the addition of the aggressive guitar chords on each beat, serve a dual purpose. First, the changes set the bridge apart from previous iterations of the similar melody. Second, these changes are familiar to the listener and make the bridge more catchy, grabbing the listener's attention. The first line of the bridge is carefree and innocent. "I was walking home on broken cobblestones."
I was walking home on broken cobblestones,
Just like the lyrics, the melody also gives the feeling that James is walking, maybe almost skipping home, like a little dance, because the melody goes up and down and it has a bouncy, sing-songy feel. The specific detail of the cobblestones is romantic imagery that suggests that James is walking along in a quaint little village, while the fact that the ground is broken represents the broken relationship that James is thinking about. This melody is also more upbeat at this point, which supports the carefree, simple feel of this line, juxtaposed by the image of the broken pieces. This is an example of literal text painting and imagery which foreshadows the relationship having problems. The next part of the song, shown in example 4, states, "Just thinking of you when she pulled up like." Here the melody is similar in its contour and rhythm and maintains some of the carefree nature of the previous line. The difference is that where the first line, half of the line only went down to an eighth A, where the first half, the line only went down to an A, the second half goes down a whole step to G. This G3 is the lowest note of the song and is highlighted by the pauses in the guitar line. James is talking about the other woman and the mistake he made with her. This text, combined with the low note, represents the low point in the narrative and could be heard as more ominous because it sits at the bottom of Swift's range. The text in the next bar is "a figment of my worst intentions," and the notes are shown in example 5. This line jumps up to an E4, which is at the top of the range of most of the song, with the exception of the pre-chorus. You heard the rumors from Inez, which jumps up to the G4 and ascends down the C major scale. Here, instead of the syncopation and the mix of 16th and 8th notes that the rest of the song uses, the rhythm suddenly changes to straight 8th notes for 2 beats. The sudden change in rhythm draws extra attention to this line, and the straight 8ths give it more emphasis still. This gives an indication to the listener that this is an important part of the song. In conjunction with the text, which is a clever play on the phrase, "a figment of my imagination," we can hear this as the turning point in the narrative. It foreshadows the desperation, regret, and anguish that James feels as a result of his mistake. The next line, as you can see in example 6, is the most static melody of the whole song. For the most part, the song has melody that regularly rises and falls, whereas here, the melody repeats one note with simple lower and upper neighbors. The lyrics are, She said, James, get in, let's drive. Those days turned into nights, slept next to her. The text initially refers to James recounting Augustine's proposition, then attempts to explain the affair. These measures are centered on the tonic C, and I argue that the static melody makes this suspense build. The guitar line and the other background instrumentals are softer at this point and make the line sound less desperate and more reflective of James's shame. The static melody reflects a deadpan emotion such as regret, and it sounds like James is pleading and rambling to Betty as he is trying to explain himself.
James, get in, let's drive. Those days turned into nights, slept next to her, but
The bridge finishes with the text, I dreamt of you all summer long, shown in example 7.
I dreamt of you all summer long.
This is the climax of the song. In Taylor Swift's performance, she emphasizes the you. The note F4 is used on the word you, and this is the only time that an F4 shows up in the melody, except for once in the pre-chorus. Perhaps James thinks that if he puts all his passion into this statement, then Betty will disregard everything else he did and forgive him for his offenses. Let's hear the whole bridge again.
I was walking home on broken cobblestones, just thinking of you when she pulled up like a figment of my worst intentions. She said, James, get in, let's drive. Those days turned into nights, slept next to her, but I dreamt of you all summer long.
One other interesting part of this song is the key change up a whole step in the last minute of the song. This modulation is not unusual for pop songs, as it keeps the song interesting and refreshing without actually changing much, according to Jocelyn Arneal, professor of music at the University of South Carolina, in her article, When Recollection Is All We've Got, Analytic Exploration of Catchy Songs. However, for Swift, this is more unusual as it only happens a few times over 10 studio albums.
So I showed up at your party. Yeah, I showed up at your party. Yeah, I showed up at your party. Will you have me? Will you love me? Will you kiss me on the porch in front of all your stupid friends? If you kiss me, will it be just like I dreamed it? Will it catch your broken wings? I'm only 17. I don't know anything, but I know I miss you.
After the bridge, the third verse changes from a hypothetical, if I showed up at your party, to the reality. Betty, I'm here on your doorstep, and I've planned it out for weeks now. This verse is shortened, and the lyrics, the worst thing that I ever did is what I did to you, are replaced with, the only thing I want to do is make it up to you. James is finished with regret and ready to face Betty again. Next, the chorus is sung with a change in lyrics from, but if I showed up at your party, to so I showed up at your party. Instead of finishing this line as in past choruses, there is an instrumental break for the next 3 bars. Then this is repeated, at which point the key abruptly modulates up a whole step to D major. The song then finishes the chorus, but this time, instead of asking the hypothetical question, would you have me, would you love me, the song switches to more realistic questions, will you have me, will you love me? The key change could be heard as representing the hope and nervousness that James is feeling now that he has decided to act on his plans concerning Betty. At the end of the song, the fourth is reintroduced. Now instead of being F, it's G, in standing in your cardigan, kissing in your car again. On both times the syllable car is sung.
Standing in your cardigan, kissing in my cardigan. Stop.
Swift's more recent albums have matured even further lyrically, which I will discuss more in the full-length paper. Taylor Swift uses a lot of one-note melodies which stay stagnant on the same note for several beats. This is fairly common in pop music, And while these stagnant melodies could be considered boring or lazy songwriting, I argue that Swift has compositional reasons that she stays on the same note in her songs. There are many reasons for doing this, and I'm going to focus on 2 reasons. First, to increase tension, and second, to make the listener pay attention to the lyrics. Out of the Woods from 1989 was released as a single in 2014. It is a great example of a song that uses a one-note melody to create tension. The lyrics to Out of the Woods can be seen on your handout. This song is about a romantic relationship between Swift and another famous person, Harry Styles, and the way that Swift felt during the relationship. Swift talked about this song in the introduction to her performance at her exhibit at the Grammy Museum in 2015.
A song that I wrote about a relationship that I was in, that the number one feeling I felt in the whole relationship was anxiety. Because it felt very fragile, it felt very tentative, and it always felt like, okay, what's the next roadblock? What's the next thing that's gonna deter this? How long do we have before this turns into just an awful mess and we break up?
As you just heard, Swift felt a lot of anxiety during that relationship because it felt like there was always something about to go wrong. I will now play the chorus of the song while the notes and lyrics can be seen in example 8. As you just heard, the hook of this song asks repeatedly, "Are we out of the woods yet?" and "Are we in the clear yet?" Almost the entire chorus is sung on the tonic C. The repeated line gives the image of being scared and anxious, creeping low to the ground, trying to get out of the woods. This is a metaphor for the anxiety about the relationship. The repeated melodic line also draws attention to the line, "Oh, I remember," which connects the bridge to the last chorus. This melody also draws attention to the background vocals in the last chorus, which you can see the notes on the slide here. These vocals have a more mobile melody, and it is in these that the desperate emotion of this song lies. In the background of the chorus, the repeated motif, "So fa mi do," adds texture. All of these elements come together to create a song in which the static melody line builds tension and anxiety. Another reason for a one-note melody is to make the listener pay attention to the lyrics. Musicologist Scott Insurante has an episode of his podcast, Pop Unmuted, where he delves into the reasons for one-note melodies. He talks about how the one-note melody is a technique that was commonly used in Gregorian chant from the medieval times. These would often feature reciting tones, where the melody stays mainly on one note. That was based on a religious text where the writers really wanted to stress the lyrics because the lyrics honored God. Recitative in opera is a kind of song that reveals some of the plot or dialogue and is set mostly on the same note. This helps the lyrics to understand the words so they know what's going on. Musical theater also does this, most famously in Pirates of Penzance, I am the very model of a modern Major Tom.
I am the very model of a modern Major General. Like information, vegetable, animal, and mineral. I know the kings of England and I quote the facts historical from out of London, Waterloo, in order categorical.
This brings me to Maroon, the second track of Swift's latest album, Midnights. You have the lyrics to this song in your handout. The pre-chorus of this song, highlighted in pink in your handout, has lyrics that are fairly basic and self-explanatory, and very clear and obvious as to their meaning. There's no figurative language or convoluted words or anything that means anything else. Where the melody moves around more, the lyrics aren't quite as important.
Shows you the one I was dancing with in New York. No shoes, looked up at the sky and it was.
Now we'll look at the chorus, with the lyrics highlighted in your handout in blue. The chorus is a stagnant melody, which draws attention to the lyrics. Now I will go through the chorus line by line. First, quote, how the blood rushed into my cheeks, so scarlet, unquote. All of that to say that she blushed. Then follows, quote, the mark you saw on my collarbone, unquote, referring to a hickey, and I will go even further to suggest that maybe the hickey made public a relationship that was supposed to stay private. Then, quote, the rest that grew between telephones, unquote, meaning they didn't talk anymore. And finally, quote, the lips I used to call home, unquote, possibly meaning they didn't kiss anymore. These are metaphors which are not overly complicated, but which are more dense than perhaps a typical pop lyric. The static melody makes the listener pay more attention to the lyrics, so they will pick up on Swift's metaphorical meanings. A second example of a one-note melody in maroon can be seen in the bridge, highlighted in your handout in purple. The bridge uses a static melody to the lyrics, and I wake with your memory over me, that's a real fucking legacy to leave, unquote. Now I will play the bridge.
Over me, that's a real fucking legacy. And I wake with your memory. Over me, that's a real fucking legacy to leave.
In maroon, three things continue to emphasize the words. Firstly, the bridge of a song is the most important part of the form because it's different and only happens once. Second, swear words are also rare for Taylor Swift, as she didn't use them at all for the first 14 years of her career, and only 6 out of 20 tracks on Midnights, from which Maroon comes, are explicit. Swift emphasizes the word by saying it more clearly, the timbre of her voice getting a little harsher for that one word. Third, because the bridge is so important, it usually has a really interesting melody, maybe even notes that haven't showed up in the song yet or a key change. In Maroon, however, the bridge uses almost entirely a static melody, going up a fourth only every other bar. In conclusion, Taylor Swift has broken records, sold out stadiums, and inspired my senior capstone for many reasons. Two of those are that she writes incredible lyrics with text painting and figurative language. Her one-note melodies give the song more emotion and draw attention to the lyrics, demonstrated through Maroon, or to more dramatic parts of the song, demonstrated through Out of the Woods. Taylor Swift is not to be dismissed as untalented. In fact, she is marvelously talented. Swift connects with her listeners based on lyrics and feelings, and these are part of what makes her music so valuable. Thank you for coming, and please join me for a reception in the lobby.